One big news over the last few months was November 2024. We just raised our seed round of 2.2 million euros. That was a pretty big milestone for the team as it, gives us some runway and able to plan for the future and, scale up a little bit. So that's one of the good things. Another thing is that we're working on our 25 ton per year CO2 removal phase one system. We're having it constructed at the moment and it should be done soon. And we're hoping to give an official press release soon once it's ready to commission. This will be an important step further because this 25-ton CO2 plant or CO2 removal plant will inform engineering decisions, design initiatives, and everything that will sort of help us plan for a full pilot 250 ton of CO2 per year removal that we aim to put out next year.
Hello, Zamin. Thanks for joining us in Scouted by Graby. I'm very excited to have you here and talk about CO2. So, how's it going?
Thanks for having us. Yes, going really good. Quite busy with work, but nice to be here. And we really like this initiative you guys are doing as well, like putting new innovations out there. Really awesome, especially for startups. They don't really have the ability to do this, so the fact that you're doing it is really good.
Thank you so much for the compliment on this. Yes, that is what we plan to do to bring startups like CO2, which are doing crazy work, solving very critical problem of the industry into the light and share with our audience. So it's nice to have you. You said that a lot of work is like you've been busy and a lot of things are going on in CO2. Can you share anything exciting that recently might have happened or something that's going on that even outside public might not know yet?
Yeah, for sure. So perhaps one big news over the last few months was November 2024. We just raised our seed round of 2.2 million euros. That was a pretty big milestone for the team as it, gives us some runway and able to plan for the future and, scale up a little bit. So that's one of the good things. Another thing is that we're working on our 25 ton per year CO2 removal phase one system. We're having it constructed at the moment and it should be done soon. And we're hoping to give an official press release soon once it's ready to commission. This will be an important step further because this 25-ton CO2 plant or CO2 removal plant will inform engineering decisions, design initiatives, and everything that will sort of help us plan for a full pilot 250 ton of CO2 per year removal that we aim to put out next year. So this is a key step for us. It's one of the, a scaling up process. So a big stone for us that we're going to walk on. So that's something we're looking forward to.
It's exciting to hear because I read about the plans of your pilot program of 250 tons, and it's good to hear that things are moving forward because I believe, as I said, not a lot of things are known about innovative startups outside. So this is something that I didn't know that you have already working on a 25-ton plan. So again, good luck with everything that's coming your way. So I mean, actually, I've talked to a few founders which are working in a carbon capture industry, and I know the space is specifically the DAC type of system, direct air capture system. That space is a little, I would say, crowded. And of course, it's not crowded. The more, the better, right? But not a lot of activities in DOC type of system. But there are still some companies doing it. So I just wanted to I was very curious about what makes DOC technology different than what already is out there.
So, well, I guess the other companies working in the space are quite similar, but we're focused just on direct ocean capture. That's what we're going. I believe other companies might be integrating, other sort of systems into their process, but we're just focusing on direct ocean capture. And there's a few processes within our system that are different and stand out. And so we're going to be focusing on that to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the market. And yes, so yeah, and stand out not only in direct ocean capture, but also in MCDR as well.
Okay. And again, this is little. I'd like to go a little bit technical on this. So I understand that DAC systems are more common, more innovation is going on that side. DOC is something that's still in experimental stage. Not a lot of crowd is there, as I said earlier. But what makes uh, DOC systems, are they like better than DAC, or do they have like a specific benchmark? What I'm trying to understand is like why DOC is what SCO2 is working on.
Yeah, happy to let you know that. So, firstly, direct air capture, we need both. We need both to scale up to even make a slight amount of impact to be able to remove. We need around 10 to 20 gigatons of CO2 per year by 2050 to even reach our IPCC climate goals, right? So we need both to scale up. it's not really about what's better. It's about both being scalable. But what makes CO2 stand out, or direct or ocean capture in a way, is that so ocean water, seawater, has 150 times about 150 times a higher carbon concentration per liter than in air. So there's more in a liter of air that you can actually take out. So that's one thing. And the ocean is vast. So actually, there's a lot available to be able to take out CO2, in
Hmm.
another way to say. And another thing about CO2 system is that we have a compact plug and play design. So you can just retrofit existing infrastructure rather than needing a lot of land to build a big system. So, for example, our scaling plan includes integrating with energy companies that are already pumping water, for example, like desalination plant, thermal pumping systems. That way, we reduce our energy cost for pumping because these systems are already pumping water. So we can just put ourselves there, for example. That's one. Yeah, just the vast connection of the vastness of the ocean and the high carbon concentration also gives us sort of a bit of an eye to sort of an alternative to direct air capture, I would say.
Makes sense, makes perfect. And I think, yeah, I guess it also affects the amount of energy is needed to remove a certain amount of carbon. I guess that ratio is much better in doc type of system compared to dsa
Yes,
systems.
it's possible. We still don't know that at scale. It could be possible because there's a higher concentration of CO2, but DOC is still at a very early stage generally in the market. Direct air capture is a little bit ahead. So, of course, possibly the numbers right now would be looking better. And we still don't know yet. It could be better. It could be, we think that it could be better. That's one of the things that we feel. But of course, we'll only know in time once we look
Yeah,
into.
things change when you have to scale things, right? So
Yeah.
power demands and all of that, I guess we'll only know once things scale up,
Yeah.
when the doc system starts scaling up.
That's correct. But theoretically, it is possible that we could have lower energy compared to direct air capture. However, I think that we are both sister sort of technologies. So I think about direct ocean capture as direct air capture, but for the water. It's
Hmm.
like sort of the same thing, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, so on like behind the scenes and on technical level, how is CO2's doc system is working out, basically from where you use the energy? Usually the question comes up about carbon capture technologies, is that they're not really sustainable, they're only sustainable on the paper, but in reality they, I think the way they use energy or the overall impact, because they by nature they need to be carbon negative in order to create an impact. So that's what I'm getting at, and that's why basically I'd like to understand the behind the scene technology of how CO2's innovation is working.
Yeah, of course. So again, to put it into perspective, we're still in an R&D phase, right? We're still figuring out the phase one of our pilot and things like that. So we're still learning, we're still making engineering decisions, building our plants and things along those lines. However, coming up to actually quantifying removals, of course, we'll have an LCA and everything done to make sure that it counts up for our emissions of the plant operation, our emissions of travel, and actually how much removal we're going to be doing. So then we'll have our plant, our name. We of course have a nameplate capacity, right? For this many tons. However, we need to include our emissions in building the plant, operations, and things like that. So those also come into play. Yes, we need renewable electricity to make it work, and we're looking into, finding the right location to where we will be deploying and things like that. So we have access to all those things. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. My other curiosities about when I was reading about CO2 were also related to scalability, and I am already aware of, we have a 250 ton carbon removal plan, a pilot program that is scheduled to be launched next year. But I am also aware of the primary goal or the biggest goal that you have is like building a gigaton based gigaton scaled system. So what challenges do you see coming in scaling to that level, from going from just 250 tons to gigaton?
Yeah, of course, there's quite a few that come into mind. Firstly, MCDR and direct ocean capture is very new to the space, so policy needs to catch up, investments need to catch up, right? People are just not aware of DOC yet, so the policy needs to switch that way, especially in the EU. So that'll be huge. But we've seen a steady rise. MCDR or direct ocean capture, direct ocean removal as well as another name that they're placing for it is coming into the market. So policy will definitely be key. Getting investments in line. Having VCs knowledgeable about that. It's more about just putting it out there, and of course, siting as well. So we'll need to be able to sites to place our potential future plants as well in areas where there's a lot of other things that come into play. We need to sample the ocean water to make sure it's like good, that it's viable for our process and things like that. So I think siting will also be a key factor in the future while scaling. But again, I think, yeah, just funding policy and buyers as well will also be that's going to be the key challenges over the next few years. And of course, the next couple of years are going to be very critical for us because we'll have to be figuring out how our tech is working and figuring out our technology. And then once all those things fall into place, the next things will come into light as well. But we do have big plans, and we're very happy how things are going. And yeah, we're very proud of our team so far.
That's really nice to hear. So I understand, of course, as with any early stage startup, funding is like critical. It's like the backbone to scale, which obvious. It's very obvious to basically, for any startup to survive, you need a scalable, steady stream of funding. So I understand that funding is like one of the challenge, and then second is, of course, I would say awareness about this technology, and like governments will be willing to more invest more in this, and supporting such startups more. I'm also interested in knowing the technical side of things. So do you see any technological challenge coming up when you need to scale for like such for a gigaton type of project, for example, maybe in case of production of these units, or how they will work collectively when operating maybe on hundreds of devices or thousands of devices? So I'm also interested in that side of things. So what does technicalities looks like when you scale?
Yeah, so those are things that are going to come into light as we, convert doing some experiments on our 25 ton as well as on our 250 ton, right? So we're still in a very early stage, so we can't really tell for sure
Hmm.
at the moment. But as I said, this is a very critical stage for us to learn as well. It's going to be a continuous learning process. It's never just going to be a one complete thing, right? Like we're a new technology and in the field as well. So yeah, that's one thing that we'll learn. And another thing regarding scalability, I forgot to mention to you, is like our scaling plan is to sort of integrate with industries that are already pumping water, right? So there's a multiple industries are already pumping water. So the plan to scale is good. Like that's one of the things. And another thing is that we also want to go offshore. So there's multiple decommissioned oil and gas rigs that are just sitting there. So we say that we can sort of repurpose them by retrofitting them with our direct ocean capture systems. So there's ample of water available in the ocean, and then also provides sort of storage on site. We also see future collaborations with energy industries so that we can sort of use that captured CO2 to provide us as feedstock to make green fuels offshore. These are some things, there's a lot of plans that we have and a lot of, sort of future lookouts for us. But yes, from the tech side, like things are going to come into light in the future. As of right now, I cannot point to anything specific as we're still in the R&D phase and we're still learning. Our plant's all working and we're on schedule for it and everything for right now for a 25 ton. But of course, it's always going to be a learning curve.
Okay, so is there any scientific or technical challenge that currently your team is trying to solve?
Well, we'll know that after we run the tests and things like that. I'm not able to let you know about too much at the moment.
Totally understandable. Thanks. Okay, so you also fleetingly mentioned partnership plans and the offshore deployment plans as well. Do you currently face any issue in totally? I think my question needs to change now since I have like more clarity about where you are in terms of like R&D and scalability stage. Um, what I'd like to know is when you're talking about like offshore deployment and directly partnering with steel manufacturers or energy companies where they're already releasing water into the ocean, so how easy it is for them to implement your technology for yeah.
So we were just, it wasn't really steel companies, as we're like sort of industries already pumping water. So specifically like desalination plants or
Okay.
thermal cooling plants and things like that. We would just, yeah, we would just sort of be able to retrofit their tech. So the water's already flowing through their systems. It's sort of just like I mentioned, we have like a plug and play design, so we can just retrofit it there along with their tech. So the water going out, we'll be able to use it for carbon removal, for example. Yeah. So
Understood.
from that way, yeah, that provides us like quite a bit of, a pathway to scale. Eventually, we want to sort of move into a licensing model. But yes, these are all things to look down the line. For right now, we're focused on, making sure that our phase one and our full scale pilot runs smoothly, and Yeah, and run some tests and also make sure we learn and grow from this.
Okay, so Zamin, do we have any numbers so far for whatever tests we have run? Is there a number that, or you could say the benefit that you take to your potential clients and showcase them that okay, if this is something you implement, this is the benefit. In maybe it could be in terms of carbon credits, or it could be in terms of sustainability. So is that,
Um,
yeah?
yeah, from that perspective, I don't know if I have any numbers for you. I don't think so. As I mentioned again, we're still learning, right? So we've sold pre-purchase carbon credits. We will deliver on them um, with our full with our plant once it's fully up and running. And yeah, so that's one thing. But I think we sold around 140 credits in pre-purchases. Yes, so nothing else from that.
Okay, okay. Again, it's good to hear that with this is something that already on the schedule, and you've already sold credits for for upcoming your plans and next milestones. I'll go back to a regulatory question. You mentioned that how basically one of the challenges of scalability is that how governments needs to promote this, and how more there should be more regulations. Is there any current regulation that your team has aligned basically as CO2 with?
So I guess the main one in the EU that we could fall under would be the ETS, which is the emissions trading scheme. So it's a sort of like a compliance market, right? So it doesn't currently include CDR, but we're hoping that it does in the future, and that would be immensely beneficial for the carbon removal space because companies would sort of have to sort of can buy a certain amount of CDR credits, and that not only allows startups like us to scale, but also actually you tend to actually remove those, right? This is carbon that you're removing and storing permanently. So having a top down pressure from governments is always important, and it's also beneficial for companies in the EU and also in the whole CDR space in the world. So the ETS would be important, and I know that the SBTI, which is the industry coalition of like companies, science-based targets initiatives, are also looking into sort of including CDR into their goals. This will also be really good as it might create a higher buyer demand, for example, from CDR credits. So we're keeping a close eye on that to make sure that we align with all their initiatives.
It's good to hear. Is there any regulation around, because as far as so based on my research, I understand that CO2, your technology is able to remove carbon from seawater used by separating both the stream of acidic and alkaline water, and then releasing the decarbonized water back into the ocean. So is there any regulation of releasing this water back into the ocean? Or the or maybe any is there any harmful implication of it? Maybe it ends up forming carbon dioxide hotspots in the ocean somewhere. So just trying to understand if there any regulation around releasing decarbonized water back into the ocean.
Well, there's not about specifically putting out decarbonized water. There is a London protocol that prevents sort of dumping in the ocean, but it's a
Hmm.
very like we're still working on. Before we do that, we're also working with our partners, with research partners, to make sure that when we are putting out water, that we are not harming the environment. Firstly, so we're going to be doing sort of experiments with mesocosms and things like that. We have all that planned. Right now, we're actually not putting out anything. We're still doing tests. So once we do go, we will make sure that we fall in line with all the national sort of regulations.
Just one last question, and which is related to any in near future plans. So I understand there's a the biggest plan there is installing the 250-ton pilot plant next year, and you're recently in process of implementing a 25-ton one. So how does the process looks like? Maybe immediately next 3 months, or right after maybe your next year 250-ton plant. And do you see any technical challenge coming up?
Yeah, I guess from the technical side, like, yes, it's just going to be, as I mentioned. So we'll have to first run a few tests to make sure everything's falling into place. Things might go wrong as they usually do everywhere.
Hmm.
And we're just going to have to sort of figure out what's the best way and the best thing to work. So our tech team, brilliant tech team, always working well on it. And I'm sure that they're going to sort everything out. But I guess it's also just going to be for the next year, just getting investment, raising our next round will also be challenging. We'll need more investment to scale up further. We'll look into applying the subsidies and things like that, building partnerships with industry associations, research bodies, things like that. So we're very excited of the next year and over the summer. But yes, it's just going to be pretty much a learning curve. And please stay tuned and check out our website for any updates and releases on our LinkedIn page as well.
I will. I definitely will. And thanks for taking me through all this. So, Zamin,
Well, I guess one thing I would like to share is today's Earth Day, and it's an important day for us as well. And I'd just like to bring to light the importance of the ocean in sustaining life, and also its role in carbon removal. And if anyone's watching, just take a look at CO2 and learn a little bit more about our process. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Yeah,
definitely. Thank you so much, Zamin. It was amazing talking to. I got to know so much about CO2 as well as the DOC industry. It was very new for me to again research about it. And thanks for taking me through this.
no, of course. Thank you, Shabaz.